Hello, thank you for joining us for our pre-recorded presentation for the AMPS conference. Our presentation is entitled Technology Infused Public Art in Albuquerque, New Mexico, IoT, Data, and Artist. I'm Sherry Brueggemann, and I'm the City of Albuquerque Public Art Urban Enhancement Division Manager, which oversees the public art program for the City of Albuquerque. And with me is...
Hi, I'm Brian Rayshap. I am an educator at Central New Mexico Community College and a partner on this public art journey.
My name is Mark Leach. I'm the Department Director for the Department of Technology and Innovation at the City of Albuquerque. Other places, that's your CIO for the city. So I'm going to go ahead and go start. They let the tech guy speak first, so we're going to just nerd out for a minute. And we're just going to talk about the framework we're using for a lot of this discussion. So I want you to think about kind of like data as just the ones and zeros of what makes things work. And then the next layer up from there, we have this thing called information. And information means that it's things like text or it's an image. We're describing what kind of data we're thinking about. And then further up from there, we've got knowledge. And that's kind of like, well, I know it's somebody's address, or I know it's a part of a movie. And then right at the top is wisdom, and wisdom allows us to take some of the action. So the bit we're going to be talking about today is really kind of like the information and the knowledge. So it's kind of like we already know it's ones and zeros. Now we know that it's going to be information coming from a sensor, or information coming from a movie or something like that. And then really we're thinking about the way that we're converting that into knowledge and wisdom. So what makes a smart community? Really, we're looking for sensors that acquire data from the community. So like I was just talking about those ones and zeros. We're then looking at really how do we collect the data and use that data. But also we're looking for information. What patterns and things can we see from the data that we're collecting? Not only are we looking for the patterns, we're looking for decisions that we can make. And this is really where AI and machine learning, popular terms that you might be hearing about today, that's where those come into the game. What patterns can we gather and what decisions can we make from the information that we're seeing? And the final piece that makes us a smart community, in our opinion, are people who are curious about our community and people who want to make a difference. So it's obvious that we don't always look for new solutions. It could be things that have worked well for other communities. We'll try them out here in Albuquerque. On the other hand, we're also realizing that kind of like we'll start with problems that are unique to Albuquerque. In other words, there are things that we need to be looking at that are only unique to Albuquerque, that can only be found in Albuquerque, and that's where we start many of our solutions. We start with the problem and not the technology. In other words, we're always trying to solve a community problem here. We work really well with our education partners. Brian, always a pleasure working with you. And that, again, gives us a different perspective on some of the community issues that we're trying to solve. Another part of our smart community strategy is we're looking for exportable skills. In other words, what can we train our students? What skills can they gain? What can they contribute, but then apply somewhere else, maybe on their next job or in their next community? And then the other thing about smart communities is that it's really multifaceted. It's all about broadband accessibility, how we connect to each other. It's all about public safety. That's obviously a big concern. Public Wi-Fi is a very important part of what we do. Being able to make sure that kind of like when you're out there in parks and enjoying Albuquerque, that we've got Wi-Fi that you can just tap into. And then also enabling economic growth. How do we make sure that we're attracting talent? How do we make sure that we have startups, and we have a vibrant tech economy? So, well, what are we doing? What's the city doing about for an overall smart community strategy? We've got so much going on. You're going to be hearing about some great things that we've been doing with art. But we also do smart lighting. We've got smart parking. We've been just talking before we went started this presentation about bus shelters. Audio detection. What actions can we take on some of the sounds that we hear? Drone usage. We have this great space called Tigway Park, which is downtown, and we've been trying to light that up with public Wi-Fi and learning a lot about the way people move around the park. So we've been doing things like heat maps as well, which has been really exciting. And then finally, the rail trail, which you're going to hear more about. That's a really exciting kind of like multi-use trail to revitalize Albuquerque, but also to use it as an opportunity to try some new things out, try some new technology out.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Mark. So Mark and I have been working together for about 5 years thinking about workforce for smart communities and smart cities. Jobs are changing around the world in many areas, and smart communities are just a great example of the skills that were needed in the past are still valuable, but they need to be enhanced for all the types of things that Mark talked about. And so Central New Mexico Community College has a workforce development program called Deep Dive Coding, or Deep Dive, and it's a 10-week full-time immersive experience. And one of the things that we developed about 5 years ago is this Internet of Things boot camp that's really focused at smart buildings, smart communities, smart agriculture, wearables, immersive entertainment, a variety of things. We bring in students from all different backgrounds. We've had 18-year-olds. We've had 17-year-olds, and we've had 81-year-olds come through our class, not requiring any former STEM background, though some of our students come in with great backgrounds. And we teach them how to program, we teach them how to design circuits and electronics, how to do computer-aided design, 3D modeling, 3D printing, laser cutting, soldering, just all these skills to make things and fabricate stuff. And it's been a really successful program where we've really seeded Albuquerque and not only the city, but also the companies here with some really great talent. As I mentioned, I always love the slide. We try to be open to everyone, and one of the ways to do that is to make it easy to get started. And so the only two requirements to kind of go into this immersive technology, get a job in 10 weeks kind of environment is that you know how to use a calculator if it's the old style with the little paper roll or on your phone, and you know how to use a mouse. One of the fancy ones or one of the early 1980 mouses. And so we take students with just literally that little of a background, and here's just a montage of the students that have been through the course from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, to prepare them for applying technology to whatever their chosen endeavor is. And some of that is go off and work in the workforce. Some of it start your own company. And we've had some companies that have supported the city of Albuquerque. Maybe it's to jumpstart your education, or as you'll hear about in a second here, maybe you're an artist that wants to take that technology and use that in your toolbox of tricks for the next great art piece. The students learn a variety of things. They learn everything they learn mathematics, they learn programming, they learn really detailed stuff into how computers work and how computers process data, but at the same time also learn how to make physical things and merge the cyber world and the real world in a way that is really kind of unique. A few years ago, Mark and Sherry and I were having tea down the street, and we were talking about something that organically started to happen, which is I started to get students that came through the boot camp not because they wanted a job, but because they were artists and they wanted to add to the artistic portfolio. I had an art teacher from a local high school that wanted to add technology to what he was teaching. We had a woman who just loved organic gardening type art and wanted to bring that into indoor spaces. And we had a professor from UNM that wanted to add technology into this art that he's been doing for years and years and years. And in that conversation, we really zeroed in on this rail trail, this 7-mile loop around downtown Albuquerque that the city is in the process of constructing as a great way to show off not only being a smart community, but being a culturally enriched smart community. And from that, we launched together this program where we would bring artists into the Internet of Things boot camp, have them go through as if they were going to get the skills to get a job, but their final piece, their capstone, if you want to call it that, was an artistic endeavor that then Sherry's team would help them continue to evolve and get to the point where it is publicly shown off. And it's just been really, really fabulous. And along that way, I kind of remember standing by the train tracks and coining the technology infused art as really the piece of what we're creating. this slide, which is my last slide, is our OG artists. The four that really started us on this path. Katie and James and Adrian and Owen really just jumped into this, not really knowing what was going to come out of it, but created some amazing stuff, which you'll see in a second here. And it started down this path where now we've had 3 cohorts of artists. The 16th artist is going to graduate just next week, and we plan to have more and more and just continue to kind of grow this just really wonderful way that technology and culture can not just coexist, but really build on each other.
Now I have the pleasure and the opportunity to describe a little bit of the artwork that the first 10 artists in the cohort that Mark put together did. And I just want to start off by saying in 2021, the Public Art Program applied for a National Endowment for the Arts grant, and we received it to do temporary public art along the rail trail. So these first artists were actually funded by that NEA grant. As we were going along, we were hoping that these temporary public artworks would be put on display out in the public realm, but at that point the groundbreaking for the rail trail had not taken place. So we moved them into our City Hall gallery, known as Gallery 1, and hosted this exhibition called Prototype. Here's an indoor shot of our lovely new gallery inside City Hall, and this is just a sort of a long shot of the works that were put on display. So the first artist is James Black. He was in the first cohort, and his project was called Rail Trail Modular Art Installation. And his idea was to literally have a plug-and-play silkscreen printing, live music, performance sort of demonstration site that could be connected through the internet, through the network that was there on site, and be able to download music and also other type of imagery that would be projected in and around the space. Here's an example of one of the Rail Trail logo t-shirts that he printed at his little makeshift screen printing station. The next artist is Owen Schwab, and he created what he called a full-scale theremin. This installation is the test theremin, and it's a theremin that uses light and sensors to sort of track movement of the body as it moves around these different elements. And he did a small-scale version that was installed inside the gallery, but he also did a large-scale version that was installed out in the lobby so that people could get the full 3-dimension, in the round experience with the theremin. That was a lot of fun. Next we have Evelyn Rosenberg, who did a project called Harbinger, and this was basically the idea of a cuckoo clock that was connected through the internet to time, and it was designed to be sort of along the trail on a post, and a little box would open and a bird would come out and make a cuckoo sound and then come back in. And if you'll notice, maybe if you watch this again on one of Mark's last slides, her project actually has moved forward to become a full-scale cuckoo clock at our transit center clock tower, which is adjacent to the rail trail. And that is moving forward as an actual 1% for Public Art project. The next artist project is Carol Cooper. She did an interactive grounding sculpture. This cube that's kind of on its corner had 5 different ways of experiencing your senses, from sound and light and aroma and texture and taste. She actually built in a little compartment that would drop a little piece of candy once you kind of got through the sense of you experiencing the other 4 senses. And this was a great interactive piece that people in the gallery completely loved. This image shows the start button, where you push the blue button and then it directs you around to experience all 5 senses. The next artist is Viola Arduini. She created a project called Flows of Relatedness. And what you're seeing here in this slide are sections of her sculpted paper mache that are placed on the wall in the pattern of the Rio Grande River that runs through Albuquerque. And the number of paper mache objects that are lit up by light captures and tells you the flow of water that is currently in the Rio Grande. Another component of her project, you can see in this slide, there's a couple of kind of like wings. They're covered in feathers. Her project was also designed to do real-time tracking of migratory bird patterns and try to draw a correlation between the flight of birds and the flow of water in the Rio Grande. The next artist is Adrian Pujan, and his project is called Epiphyte. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. Epiphyte. This is a project where he created this plexiglass box, and he actually has a real plant in there that's connected to sensors, and then the sensors are tied into a video with a lot of algorithms that use images that he created, very artistic images, and it's basically, his version describing it was that it's about sort of imagining how the plant might be dreaming if the plant were enjoying its environment or maybe stressed in its environment. Then the algorithmic images would tell you a little bit about the conditions that the plant was experiencing. The next artist in the first cohort was Katie Neely, and she created what she calls the New Mexico bark bench. And her original model was a life-size park bench that you could sit on that was all solar driven and had recharging stations for anybody who wanted to maybe just sit and enjoy a moment and place their phone down and have it recharge. It was also completely lit up with LED lights in the base that she cast into resin, and it had a small battery pack to be able to hold the charge a little bit longer. It was a beautiful project. The next artist is Emily Silva, and she did a project called Light Bodies, where she is, she's actually an industrial designer, and she does lighting as her profession, as her career, very much in organic shapes. You can see on this slide right here that she has some of those organic shapes hanging on the wall, but the intention is her design was to take those organic shapes with lighting and turn them on there horizontally, and the designs would correspond to a heat sensing map on the ground that had very much an organic, the same kind of organic design on the ground, where people could move through the mural on the ground and then light up the light above them. So it's sort of like a walking through a different type of pattern and having the light up. The next artist is Celestino Crowhill, and the title of his work is called Rail Trail Imagined, and he did a really interesting project where he cast different types of earth and used some sensors that would measure and activate with moisture. Here in the Southwest, if folks are enjoying this presentation from Arizona, we know that moisture is so critical to our environment, and Celestino's idea was to create these special beautiful cast sculpture earth works that would then capture moisture and then light up different elements that could help people understand when rain was coming or when rain had maybe completed its cycle of moving through the Southwest. This was an excellent prototype, very fun, even though we were a little worried about having actual water in our brand new gallery floor. It turned out to be just beautiful. And then finally, the last of the first 10 artists is Sueva Sevilla, and Sueva's project is called Counters. And you can see on this slide here that he's got 2 custom-made boxes, beautiful woodwork on these boxes with lights on the inside, LED lights on the inside. But at the end, on the left-hand side of the boxes, are sensors that measure both temperature and movement. And he designed them as a way of putting something out into the built environment that might serve as a more interesting and artistic way of letting people know that maybe a train is coming on the rail trail, and that instead of looking at standard don't cross here when the train is going through in different pedestrian areas. He wanted it to be more artistic. So the lights would light up based on movement of air and temperature, but also the movement of the trains themselves. And so here's a little diagram just that shows a very, very simple sensor that he created. However, I will say that Sueva is a super mathematically intellectual person that Brian can explain this a whole lot better than I can, but the idea is that he really wanted to play very deeply with ones and zeros in a way that people would challenge people to have a sort of a creative experience as well. And so again, this is just sort of a few more pictures of examples. Here's a video of Adrian Pajan's plant in its dream state. And then I couldn't resist a photo of the exhibition with all the lights off, just showing all of the wonderful art and technology and glowing. And so as part of the exhibition, we did include QR codes for all of the artists that would take viewers back to their original pages and also to their original presentations that they did in Mark's class, and in Brian's class. And so we wanted to throw those up on the screen, so if anybody wants to dive into more of each of these artists' works, you can just pause here and use your camera to go deeper. And then also finally, we just want to share that the City of Albuquerque Public Art Program has a podcast called Take Another Look, and both Mark and Brian and Celestino did one of those podcasts with us back in the spring, and that's another great way of learning more about the whole program, and most importantly, hearing from one of the artists who says that this experience changed his life and changed his entire career trajectory, and that's the kind of investment that we are super excited about with this sort of unique partnership between our Department of Information and Technology, our community college, who's doing the education in this area, and then us in public art, hopefully being able to put it out there in the actual public realm in the very near future. So please keep an eye out for more information as public art emerges on the Albuquerque Rail Trail. So, thank you.
Yep.